We should be going online. How's everyone doing? So today we're going to be reacting to this video called The Phoenix Lights. They Don't Want You to Know. It's on the channel So Weird with Patrick James. I think this video is incredible. I think it's really interesting. It's about the Phoenix Lights. I believe it was 1998 that this happened, maybe 97, 98, something like that, where an object flew over Phoenix. And this guy, Patrick James, does a really deep dive into it, and some incredible things happen as he's researching and talking with witnesses. And give this a minute if anyone wants to join us before I just start playing the video. Yeah, we are going to be analyzing it, giving our thoughts, seeing what some possible explanations could be. It should be a good time. Huddled up over here with my dogs. They've got to come cuddle up with me. Usually at this point they've had dinner and they're in good moods. They snuggle up real good. Alright, let's start the video.
In the darkness is the light. They appeared without warning, silent, still, watching. March 13th, 1997 was a night like any other. But for the people of Arizona, everything changed in a matter of minutes.
Last night, people all over Arizona say they saw a UFO.
Folks who witnessed this strange sighting are calling it simply unexplainable.
They called them the Phoenix Lights. Strange orbs, bright as fire, moving in perfect formation across the Arizona sky for hours.
That actually happened in Phoenix.
Take a look at this.
Whoa, look at all. This is horrible.
I got that one on video. Major sighting here.
Oh my God, get your mother.
And I always thought that it was only one giant craft that flew over, but as they're going to talk about, there were apparently multiple, or there could have been multiple. As many as, like, I think they said there could have been like 6 of them flying over. But
it wasn't just 1 or 2 people. It wasn't a handful of conspiracy theorists or UFO hunters.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
This was seen by thousands across multiple states.
The craft was moving very slowly. The most dramatic sighting in Arizona this decade.
Pilots saw it.
This thing shot straight up and vanished right in front of my eyes.
Police saw it.
It was nothing that we could have built.
Doctors, teachers, truck drivers, they all saw it.
My God, how big is this thing? We got out of our car.
The left side was a couple blocks over.
It scared the heck out of me.
For months, witnesses kept asking one question. What was it?
It was a spaceship.
They're not from here.
There's no question that was an alien object.
That's why 2 months later, the governor of Arizona, Fife Symington, called a press conference promising to reveal who was actually behind the Phoenix Lights.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get in too close to me, please.
And the people became angry.
Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Because they felt like they were told they were crazy and should stop talking about the little green men from outer space.
They tried to brush it under the rug by calling
I think it was a stupid joke. I think the governor
like,
is
hey,
a complete
it's crazy. We're talking about
idiot.
aliens
But what
here.
the world didn't know at the time is that even he saw it.
March 13th, 1997. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft come right over Squaw Peak.
A confession he'd make over a decade later, leaving the actual witnesses of the event with an empty feeling that only somewhat resembled closure.
I can definitively say that this craft did not resemble any man-made object that I'd ever seen.
Since before his confession, the government tried their hardest to convince the people that what they actually saw were just flares. For one night, the sky.
And we're going to see why they thought that that actually wasn't flares. They're going to talk about that. In the end, they said they don't know what it was, but they know what it's not. It wasn't flares.
Skies above Phoenix, Arizona became a stage.
Which is what I always thought too. It looks like it's just lights, but apparently all the witnesses are saying that it seemed that it was actually connected to this big craft.
For something we still can't explain. No radar blips, no official story that makes any sense. They say if you stare into the void long enough, it stares back. On March 13th, 1997, something stared back. Don't look up. They might still be watching.
The Phoenix Lights, they don't want you to know. Again, this is by So Weird with Patrick James. If you like what you're seeing, please go to his channel, check it out.
Like any other. Rush hour was
97.
dying down, and Richard Curtis, a retired vet living in downtown Phoenix, was engaged in his nightly routine of using his CB radio to listen to what truckers on the highway were talking about. And on this night, according to the radio chatter, there was apparently a very large, triangular-shaped UFO hovering right above the ground and heading south right towards downtown Phoenix. Now, Richard, being former military, didn't really believe in UFOs from outer space, but he certainly wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to see one. And luckily, he lived at the Westward Ho, which happened to be the tallest building in Phoenix at the time. So he grabbed his brand new video camera, put a blank tape inside, headed to the roof, and waited. And less than 30 minutes later, just as he'd been expecting, the large craft slowly came into view. He then pressed record and watched as it slowly passed over his head. Now, Richard had no idea, but the video that he would go on to record would become a small yet controversial part of the larger Phoenix Lights story.
Let's see where this is. The Western Ho. Let's see if it still is around here. Westward Ho? Westward Ho. Right here. Like right in the middle. I'm not from Phoenix. I've never been to Phoenix. But apparently it came from up here. So he was in a very, very populated area here.
Because he wouldn't be the only one to record something strange in the skies that night. At the exact same time, about 100 miles north in Paulden, Arizona, a former police officer named Terry Proctor was with his wife when they both saw a very strange and very large formation of 5 lights heading towards Phoenix.
You see it? I don't know what it
They're
is
seeing
yet.
it first.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
One of the
Was this the same craft that Richard saw? It's unlikely, because around the same time of about 8:15 to 8:30, a woman named Patty was with her husband just south of Phoenix in a suburb called Ahwatukee. Where were you at? What time was it? What were you doing?
Okay. My name is Patty Ensign. It was March 13th, 1997. I live right at the base of South Mountain. Most people know South Mountain because they can see the antennas with the red flickering lights. As we turned onto the little road we live on, I'm looking and I go, do you see that? And what we're seeing are...
Let's see South Mountain. Where's that? South Mountain. Base of South Mountain. Down here. That's even like south of Phoenix. They're seeing it all the way up here. I don't know exactly where the mountains would be. I guess if we turn this into... The mountains are like up here. You've seen it from all the way down here.
Seven lights flying in formation.
A sight so breathtaking that without thinking, they pulled over and got out of the car just to watch.
And as it's coming by us, my husband said, I think those are planes just flying in formation. I said, Danny, it can't be planes flying formation because look, between the lights, it's blocking out all of the stars. And as it gets about right here to me, it kind of shifted a little bit. And that's when we saw it was a massive triangular object. It was massive.
It was very low to the ground, and everything around them became noticeably silent.
It became so quiet. It was a calmness that came over us. We didn't say anything. We didn't move.
How could it be soundless? That's the other weird thing, is it's like, how could there be no sound at all? And I'm also curious, like, did they track it? Like, did they have eyes on it? Like, the entire time? Like, where did they go to? You would think that, like, someone would follow. Did it go, like, into... Kept going south? Or to go over Mexico? Be entering Mexico. It just kept going south.
Just stood there in awe. And then all of a sudden, we looked at each other and we said, whoa, did you see that? And we were both like, oh my gosh, I can't believe did you see that? I mean, we couldn't say those words enough. And then suddenly we realized that we're standing in the middle of the road, the car doors are open, and now we're starting to laugh and we're just in awe of what we felt together.
Just out of pure curiosity, I asked her after our interview if she could draw for me what the UFO that she saw looked like.
On them.
And this is the picture she sent me.
So what you saw was a black triangle.
Huge black triangle floating silently.
A very interesting detail that stood out to me because of the next witness named David Parker, who ironically, at the exact same time that Patty was seeing this over South Mountain, had a sighting of his own that was much different.
Hey, my name's David Parker. At the time I was working hospice. Normally I would get off about 7:30 at night, but the night nurse was a little bit late, so I probably didn't get off closer till 8 o'clock, which ended up put me in the absolute best position I could have been to see the Phoenix Lights.
And he was driving down I-60, which at the time was under construction, so most of it was a dirt road. You were driving on top of dirt.
Because of the construction, the whole freeway was dirt. And then on the overpass, there was a mound of construction dirt. I ended up going on top of it. And because I was now up on top of the overpass and on a mop of it,
you were driving on top of dirt.
Because of the construction, the whole freeway was dirt. And then on the overpass, there was a mound of construction dirt. I ended up going on top of it. And because overpass
at the time
could have been to see the Phoenix Lights.
And he was driving down I-60, which at the time was under construction, so most of it was a dirt road. You were driving on top of dirt.
Because of the construction, the whole freeway was dirt. And then on the overpass, there was a mound.
I-60, let's see I-60. Where is that? I-40. I-60. How far north is it? South, let's see. Interstate 60. Oh, he's... Is this it? 60, yeah. So he's all the way down south? So again, I'm pretty sure these things are traveling south, and he's somewhere here. It says he's on 60, so I guess it flew like this way, and he's just... I guess he's somewhere over here. I thought it was more remote. I thought it was like all the way north. But I guess that's not the case. All right.
Of construction dirt. I ended up
incredible,
on top
isn't
of
it?
it.
His story.
And because I was now up on top of the overpass and on a mound of construction debris, I'm up in the air. I'm over rooftop high.
And that's where you saw the craft?
So I'm in my little truck and I'm looking out the window and there's all these lights. coming towards me, and it looked like liquid fire coming out of the sky, like pools.
That was the first thing you noticed?
That's what I saw. And I got out of my truck, and then there's this magnificent, I'm going to guess a mile-wide craft floating gently in the sky,
like a
coming
boomerang
towards me. Had the craft fallen down, I could take 2 steps and I could have kicked the very tip of it.
Roughly how far away you think, if you had to guess?
I felt confident I could hit it with a rock.
So that was really low to the ground.
That was real low. Where I was, at least, it was very, very low.
Definitely not a plane height.
No.
Okay.
And with the ambient light of Phoenix, the city lights kind of shining up, there's like a glow on the bottom of the craft. And I know so many other people saw a V. To me, it looked like a boomerang.
You were about eye level with it.
Yes.
That's the weird thing too, is that everybody saw different shapes. That lady before saw a straight up triangle, and he's saying it was like a boomerang.
And just inside the tip of the left wing, I could see just a little bit up into the opening of the craft. It was like a canister. And out of that came this lava, and it was pouring down and glowing, and it would form like drips, and they would stop, and then the drip would go back up, and the glow on the ground, the glow on me, the glow everywhere was orange. And my focus was mostly on the one closest to me because that stuff looked hot, but there was not one bit of heat. There was no odor. There was no tingling on my face.
No sound.
My hair didn't
right there.
singe. Totally silent. Absolute total silence.
Then as this craft slowly drifted away into the distance, he noticed what looked like ribbons of rainbow-colored mist coming off the back of this craft.
As it comes and flies over my head, it was like a rainbow flag waving like a fishtail behind it. But it was like a colorful mist, and it was sparkly. And behind each light was this mist. And when the mist went over my head, it was like something in my brain clicked. And I just had this incredible, overwhelming feeling of love. It was like the best friends you ever had just drop by to say, I love you, I'm checking in on you. I don't know who was sitting in the driver's seat. I felt an instant connection. And it was just an absolutely wonderful feeling of gratitude. That's the closest I can come to it. Just pure, unadulterated gratitude.
What about the experience makes you associate that feeling of gratitude with the mist specifically?
Because that's when I felt it.
When you saw it?
Yes. As it went over my head.
You know, I just realized I forgot to turn
the
chat on.
I can see it right now.
So I could do
it just meandered. Just floated in the sky.
Now, if you haven't noticed already, around the same time, all over Arizona, people everywhere were seeing something in the skies that night.
About what time?
It would have been a little after 8.
Approximately what time?
8:15, 8:30, something like that.
8:15, that's about exactly what we decided that we saw this craft.
But hardly anybody could necessarily agree to seeing the same thing.
I'm looking out my window, and here comes this massive boomerang. Craft.
It had the point on the front.
And it was rounded. It wasn't pointed like this.
It was in this V pattern of the 5.
How do they all have different visuals? That's what they're saying. It's like, were there multiple? And again, what I'm getting from this, here's 60. So this is coming down here, south, right here. And then she was somewhere over here. And she's having something fly over her too. So that's weird. Again, it's like there were multiple. We're about to get into.
Lights. There were 7 lights. It was more massive.
And it was this disparity in eyewitness reports that would not only add to the mystery of the entire situation, but would also lead people to conclude that whatever flew over Arizona was not just one large craft, but rather was most likely a wave of many different crafts spotted at specifically 8:15 to 8:30 p.m.
Now, whether it was one craft that could morph into looking different, or the perspective from where the person was standing, or parade. And ultimately, that was the conclusion, because it wasn't just 1 or 2 events, as you would hear in the media. In reality, on March 13th, 1997, the mass sighting began at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and the sightings continued until 5:30.
So they're saying that there could have been like 6 of them. And there's videos and there's pictures and there's witness testimony saying this is what I saw, this is what was going on. So there could have been like
Which leads me to this man right here, Peter Davenport.
The Phoenix Lights event started up near Las Vegas and specifically over Henderson, Nevada.
Peter is the director of the National UFO Reporting Center based out of Seattle.
Started in Nevada? Is that what he said?
Henderson, Nevada.
Peter is
started up near Las Vegas and specifically over Henderson, Nevada.
Peter is the director
up near
this man right here, Peter Davenport.
The Phoenix Lights event started up near Las Vegas and specifically over Henderson, Nevada.
Henderson, Nevada. Let's see. Henderson, Nevada. He's saying it started here. How do you know it started there? Henderson. Oh, this is Henderson over here. This whole thing over here. It started up here? Right by Las Vegas? How did they not see it? How did they not have any of that? It started up there. And then it flew this way? Really? All right, well, let's see what he's got to say.
Peter is the director of the National UFO Reporting Center based out of Seattle, Washington, or NUFORC for short.
To the best of our knowledge, the objects passed over all of these communities that you see shown here: Paulden, Sedona, Prescott, Chino Valley, Prescott Valley, Dewey, Cordes Junction, and Kingman. Very busy night.
And all you need to know about him is that pre-internet, if you happen to see a UFO anywhere in the US, his phone number was the number that you called to report the sighting.
My suspicion is we're dealing with at least 5, possibly 6 triangular craft. Also, a huge disc was reported over Phoenix the night of the Phoenix Lights, so possibly as many as 7 craft, but that is an estimate.
But on March 13th, 1997, when he got that first call around 8:30 p.m., it was from a former police officer named Terry in Paulden, Arizona. Yes, the same Terry that we met earlier who took this video.
Unfortunately, the video is very grainy. The objects in the formation are so small, they're very difficult to see.
And it was that call that made Peter feel like something big was about to be happening in Arizona.
Tonight includes some rather strange occurrences in Arizona. Here is Peter Davenport. Peter.
Good evening, Art.
Hi. What in the world is going on?
Well, I'm not sure myself, but it's been a very busy night in the skies above Arizona tonight. Just about 3 hours ago, we started taking calls all over Arizona. The first call came in from a retired police officer who lives in Paulden, Arizona.
The line.
That's, I guess, about 150 or 200 miles straight north of Phoenix.
And in the weeks that would follow, he'd get hundreds of reports that would allow him to start piecing together the series of events that really happened on March 13th. And
could you imagine if this happened today, 2026, where just everybody has cameras and you could like high resolution? Could you imagine?
Some of these reports even included photos.
Will it happen? It could happen. I mean, this happened March, I think they said March 17th. So we are a couple days away from the anniversary of this.
Videos too, which is exactly why Peter reached out to one of his buddies named Jim Delatoso, who ran a lab based out of Tempe, Arizona called Village Labs.
Village Labs is a computer visual effects design firm operated by Michael Tanner and Jim Delatoso.
Village Labs creates computer software for aerospace and the film industry.
Jim Delatoso has been researching UFOs for 20 years.
Can you outline for me what role Village Labs played in the Phoenix Lights incident?
Before the Phoenix Lights, I had been in the business of renting out scientific equipment, audio, video equipment. So I had all this equipment. And since the late 70s, I could use my own gear to satisfy my personal interest in claims of the paranormal. So we analyzed the claims and started building a database so we could reorganize them in a linear timeline, or we could look at the ones that were similar. How many lights? Did the lights move separate of each other? Did they move together? And all the things that people said.
And much to Peter's surprise, Jim himself had already been investigating the Phoenix Lights prior to March 13th because, believe it or not, these mothership-sized UFOs had already been getting seen by people for weeks leading up to the grand finale.
So, approximately...
That's weird as hell, too. There were a bunch... The weeks prior, they were seeing things north of Phoenix. So before they came here in Phoenix, apparently, I guess between Las Vegas and Phoenix, there was a ton of activity up here where there were just giant crafts also flying around, which I guess happened in like February and whatnot. So they were already getting footage of just like these UFOs flying around up here, and they were like, what the hell is this? Is this military? Are they just straight up aliens? Like, what is it?
When did the reports start, and then when did they end?
One video started months before, looked just like the Phoenix Lights.
Months
I already
before.
had that in our library.
One of these people who'd been seeing these lights was a woman named Dr. Lynn Kitai, who 2 months before the Phoenix Lights, she took these series of photos while standing on her balcony at her home in Paradise Valley, north of
January 23rd, 97.
Phoenix.
2 months before the mass sighting, I noticed at a distance a line of 6 equidistant lights that were huge. I grabbed my camera, got pictures of them, didn't sleep well that night. Next morning, I called around. I found air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport, saw the same thing at the same time. And one of them was a meteorologist and said there were 6 points.
And I'm sorry, I keep saying 1998, but it's 1997. 97 this happened, March 13th, 1997.
Of light totally equidistant from each other, massive span over a mile wide. It seemed to be attached to
over
something.
A mile
they couldn't
wide.
Quite see what these lights were attached to, but he said the entire thing turned as a unit against the wind, elevated slowly, and in synchrony moved behind South Mountain, which is south of the airport. So I said, so what was it? There was silence. And then he said, beats me. I said, you're an air traffic controller. You're supposed to know what's in our airspace.
And she wasn't the only one. On March 12th, a Navajo ranger named Jonathan Dover was in Loop, Arizona, several hundred miles away, when him and basically the entire town saw a large and strange formation of lights in the distance that was there for so long they were able to get out lawn chairs and video cameras and tripods and record these things. I need to ask you, lawn chair formation away, when a ranger named
airspace.
And she wasn't the only one. On March 12th, a Navajo ranger named Jonathan Dover was
March 12th. So this is, let's see, March 12th. So the day before.
Was in Loop, Arizona, several hundred miles away when
Loop, Arizona? Spell that. Loopton, Arizona? Is it here? So they're hanging out over here? Let me make sure I heard that correctly. Does anyone know what he said? A loop? Loopton?
When him and Basic Dover was in Loop, Arizona, on March 12th, a Navajo ranger named Jonathan Dover was in Loop, Arizona.
The hell is Loop, Arizona? Loop, Arizona. I'm not getting anything. L-O-O-P? Arizona? Where the hell is Loop, Arizona? I don't know. Loop, Arizona. I don't know if anyone knows. Let me know what he's even saying.
Several hundred miles away, when him and basically the entire town saw a large and strange formation of lights in the distance that was there for so long they were able to get out lawn chairs and video cameras and tripods and record these things. I need to ask you about the sightings that happened in Loop, Arizona, about 2 weeks prior to the Phoenix Lights incident. What happened with that? What's that all about?
Well, believe it or not, it wasn't 2 weeks before.
Okay.
What actually happened here happened the night before the Phoenix Lights. What happened is we're sitting here at the house and my brother-in-law comes running in and he says a triangle-shaped craft went over the house and it was silent. So we went outside and we watched these craft. There's 6 or 7 of them circling our community in a counterclockwise direction. And we just sat out there and watched them. They were totally silent. We watched these for a while. At the end, when these things flew off to the north toward the Grand Canyon, nobody said a word about this.
Grand Canyon.
They didn't
Okay,
ask each other,
I
did
see
you
how
see
it's
what I
spelled now.
saw? You know,
We're gonna look this up.
they just all quietly.
It's spelled L-E-U-P-P. L-E-U-P-P. Loop, Arizona. So somewhere in here is where they were. And he said it went towards the Grand Canyon. And I'm going to show how stupid I am. I don't know where the hell the Grand Canyon is, but he said north towards the Grand Canyon. Oh. Grand Junction towards the Grand Canyon. And Canyon. The Grand Canyon. So from around here north. So that guy before said from Las Vegas down to Phoenix, and now we're talking about this flying north towards the Grand Canyon. So where the hell are they originating from? I mean, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere up here, but if they're saying that it's like a mile long and they're like these huge crafts, kind of hard to miss, right?
They pulled up their chairs, went back in their houses, turned their lights back on, and went on with life. And the next night, the Phoenix Lights occurred.
It was the literal next day.
Yeah, the very next day. And totally eclipsed everything that we saw.
But this next one really blows my mind.
A month before the Phoenix Lights, a guy named Roy Haddix, who was a retired military officer, would come in and tell me, Jim, you got to look at this video. I shot this video way up in Paulden, Arizona. Something comes up and I see it and it's lit and then it lands. Goes away.
Because when I talked to Jim Delatoso of Village Labs, he told me about a guy named Colonel Roy Haddix, who had apparently recorded one of these craft from the Phoenix Lights several days before as well.
I still have those videos from Roy Haddix. He was a Green Beret colonel, by the way. He wasn't just a military officer.
It's like they're everywhere. Paulden is over here. But then again, just because you know, they're saying Paulden doesn't mean it's like directly over Paulden. It's all the way, this is how north it is from Phoenix. But these things could be like, you know, like anywhere. Again, I imagine it's hard to miss something that's like a mile in length.
And yes, I did ask him off camera if he was able to send me the video since he said that he still has it. He didn't really respond to that question, but he did the next best thing.
This is Jim Delatoso. I just talked to Monty Haddix, and Monty came in with his dad a couple times when his dad brought me the tape. And he confirmed that he has vivid memories of being in the car a number of times with his dad. So Monty could be very good to give an in-person interview about what he saw himself.
Hi, I'm Monty Haddix, son of Roy Haddix. I came here today. I was asked to come and talk a little bit about the relationship that my father had with me, and also the night when everyone saw the lights in Phoenix over South Mountain.
Was he there too?
According to Monty, his dad Roy was somewhat of a UFO whisperer.
Roy was searching for extraterrestrial ships based on the fact that he had felt like he had some connection with either the technology of the craft or with maybe ETs themselves.
And on a regular basis would schedule these sky watches to go out into the middle of nowhere to apparently try to summon these UFOs using meditation and consciousness practices.
He used to do a trip where he would go up around Vegas and Kingman and Parker, and he would make like a loop and he would drive out there. Sometimes he would camp out overnight and stay, and he was just stargazing. He was looking at the sky.
Was he like channeling them or something?
No, he inevitably
inevitably became part of the project that the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats was part of. Remote viewing.
My father
The movie.
camp out overnight, stay, and he was just stargazing. He was looking at the sky.
Was he like channeling them or something?
No, he inevitably became part of the project that the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats was part of. Remote viewing.
My father felt like that if you could just meditate and get yourself to a specific vibration, that now you can see things that are in a different vibration that maybe other people can't see.
And he took video of this a few days before?
Every day. He took video of it every day.
So he was going up to Parker just to get video of this.
2009.
Yeah.
So he literally went to Parker just to do this meditation.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see him sitting out on a blanket, on a rock, just, in a meditation position and just.
And it was during one of these sky watches that Colonel Roy Haddix, former Green Beret, recorded video of a very large mothership hovering right over his head.
5 or 6 days before the lights actually showed up, he was just frantic about the fact that he had seen a ship that was not like a Suburban or an SUV big. It was something that.
You think this guy accidentally called him? He's looking for UFOs, and they got his message, and they're like, "All right, let's hit this guy up. Show him we're here."
Covered the entire sky, and it blacked out the stars as you looked up from the bottom and saw it. He had a camcorder, one of the old style camcorders, and he had managed to get a video of it, which I saw.
At least once, Roy came back and said, "Jim, you got to come with me." Go, "Roy, I can't take 10, 12 hours out to do a round trip with you to drive around the state looking at these giant lights." And he was polite. He'd say, "Well, okay, but they're getting ready." I always remember him saying that. They're getting ready.
He told us quite literally that this ship was coming, that it was on the way to Phoenix. The direction that it was going in was on the way to Phoenix. But several days passed, if I remember, and I had forgotten about it. You know what I mean? And then it was all over the news.
And then when the Phoenix lights happened and the reports were that we knew the flight plan, that it came from the northwest diagonally all the way down to Tucson, turned around and came back. And that's when I was thinking, man, that's just what Roy said was going to happen. They're coming.
Can you describe for the camera what the video would look like if we were watching it right now?
Yeah, lights the size of this, not this big, but lights that look similar to this big round light that's right here in front of me right now, spread out in a semicircle. And then as it went over, you can just tell, you can see the shadow of the craft as the lights go past. It's because it's low enough to the ground that you can still see the bottom.
I was about to say they should get draw a picture of what this guy's describing, but this looks a whole lot like that other guy that said he was seeing the lava come from the lights there. That guy said he only saw 5 of them. This is 7 lights. So different craft, unless the craft is morphing or something.
Body of the craft itself. A lot of people said that it was a big triangle, but from my observation with the video that I saw, it seemed like it was more rounded.
Unfortunately, Monty informed me that a few years back when his dad had passed, they ended up throwing away a lot of his dad's old stuff, which did include a lot of these tapes that he was taking during his sky watches.
How many lights were on this craft, do you recall?
The part of the video that I saw, as my dad went up into the sky, you could see the front of it, and then there's 3 lights on that side. So I would say 6 lights, 7 lights, maybe if we had to look at the other side.
But he did say that he does remember his dad specifically giving one of these copies to Jim Delatoso at Village Labs.
And then that was later given to a friend of ours named Jim, and I'm not sure exactly I'm sure he has it somewhere, that documentation somewhere.
Monty said that he thinks that all of the tapes that his dad had were lost after he died. Did you say you had a copy of one of those tapes?
How do you lose this stuff? It's I've got UFO footage. What happens to it? They just throw it away?
Sitting around.
Well, it's not sitting around, but I mean, it's yeah, I have it. I've seen it in the last 10 years in one of my boxes as I was going through them.
I felt, in a way, like meeting Jim was almost not an accident. Like people were paying attention to the things that my father was saying about UFOs.
Which brings us back to the Village Labs investigation of the Phoenix Lights.
When I first met Jim Dilettoso, he had rented out an entire big resort just so he could talk to my father about UFOs, and they had the whole place. Like, I don't know how you do that. I don't want to speculate on.
They had all of
like UFO rented.
Labs investigation of the Phoenix Lights.
When I first met Jim Dilettoso, he had rented out an entire big resort just so he could talk to my father about UFOs, and they had the whole place. Like, I don't know how you do that. I don't want to speculate on, which taxpayers paid for that, but...
Believe it or not, after March 13th, aside from a few local news stations briefly mentioning it, the national news didn't want to touch the story with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, how weird is that?
Or frustrated. When are you guys going to investigate this? I mean, it was hardly even in the news for, I don't know, what, 3 or 4 months?
And since Village Labs already had a reputation for analyzing photos and videos of the paranormal, most of these witnesses who were desperately looking for an outlet for someone to understand what they went through and what they witnessed,
I think that when people see things that are crazy and unexplainable, even if everybody sees it, y'all just kind of think like, there's got to be an explanation. I don't know the explanation, but it can't be something supernatural. There's got to be an explanation. It's just like, I don't know what it is. Surely someone knows what it is. It's some top secret program, but it can't be anything like reality breaking.
naturally started gravitating towards Village Labs.
There was a great place we had back then called Village Labs, where we had town hall meetings with witnesses.
Thanks for coming to the Phoenix Lights briefing number 4.
Village Labs was kind of a watering hub and a meeting hole where people would exchange stories and talk to television reporters.
I went to some of the very first meetings because they wanted to find out who saw whatever we saw on the 13th.
It wasn't anything I'd ever seen before.
It wasn't doing any of this. It wasn't doing any of that. It was like locked.
There were 5 because I distinctly counted them to make sure that there were 5 lights.
What they mainly had was software none of us could get our hands on. I mean, back in '97, I remember they had software that cost $16,000. So that's a lot of money today.
We had state-of-the-art equipment, and my staff were very knowledgeable and very skilled in various analysis techniques. So we analyzed the Phoenix Lights.
And in the process of doing this, 4 main videos would emerge. The Mike Princeton video, taken from the north side of the valley, pointing towards South Mountain, showing a large, rounded formation of lights ominously hovering over the city.
The time is about 10 o'clock, Sue?
Yes.
10 o'clock, March 13th, Thursday night.
The Chuck Reardon video, taken way east of South Mountain.
This is a videotape shot by Chuck Reardon, who lives in the far east part of the valley. At this point, the lights have been on, and now they're going off one at a time.
The Tom King video, taken from Chandler, just a few miles east of South Mountain.
Look at all! This is fun!
The first video in the timeline that we were aware of was Tom King.
What are the odds that you would be sky watching for UFOs on the night of the biggest mass UFO sighting in history?
1 in millions.
Holy shit. I got that one on video.
I was out that night. We actually had an appointment at this guy's house. The man's name is Steve Blonder.
This is the location. This is Steve right here.
He was filming UFOs every night. He said, guaranteed if you come over, you'll see something. So my job was to show up and document everything that happened.
I would have showed up.
That's exactly what I did.
Guaranteed it.
That's weird. They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
I knew immediately from my experience, which was only a couple of years of skywatching at that time, that this was highly unusual. I anticipated that we weren't the only ones seeing this.
Bill, over here, there's 4.
Look.
Major sighting here.
So I thought when I said this is a major sighting, good possibility others were seeing it. I had no idea it was as massive as it turned out.
Which brings me to Dr. Lynn Kitai's video showing a formation of 3 lights taken over South Mountain.
Whatever this was popped up over Class B restricted airspace, about 1,000 feet altitude. There's a 30-mile radius around the center of the airport. Anything that comes into that airspace must call into the tower, and no one did.
Now, according to Mike, Chuck, and Tom, their videos came from around 10 p.m., at least 90 minutes after the majority of the sightings from the witnesses that we were just
read these videos. It looks like these two are like almost identical, same position. I don't know about this one though. These guys were like standing next to each other, like they were like hanging out.
talking about earlier. And Dr. Lynn is the only one of the 4 videos where she claims that hers was taken prior to the 10 p.m. sightings, indicating that what she recorded is distinctly different than what's shown in the other videos.
There was a whole group of air traffic controllers that saw this and that ruled out every conventional aircraft, balloons, Chinese lanterns, flares, even skydivers with lights.
For me, we were dealing with it as, let's build the trajectory now of where the object started and what's its flight path. We could fill in, although we didn't have a witness at 8:51, we knew where it had been, so that's the trajectory. And Michael Tanner headed that team.
We established this formation came in somewhere around 8 o'clock and left in the direction that it came somewhere around 10:30 that night. So we had a general timeline we were able to construct and a general flight path.
But this is where the waters start to get muddy.
Even a commercial airline pilot here at Sky Harbor Airport reported seeing the lights last night. The object was directly above him. That means that air traffic controllers in the tower should have picked the object up on their radar screens. And yet they say they...
Yeah, that is quite strange. They're saying, this guy's saying that he saw it, so air traffic should have seen it visually or at least on the radar, but the radar didn't pick it up. Very strange.
Saw nothing.
If you remember, Peter Davenport from New Fork was basically spending the whole night of March 13th taking calls and writing down everything he possibly could from what the witnesses were telling him.
I had been working from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. that night, the night of the Phoenix Lights event. I was exhausted. There were papers everywhere. People were calling every 2 minutes, and all I had time to do was scribble a few handwritten notes of what they had just seen, allegedly.
Well, one of the witnesses, her name was Sue Watson. Sue Watson was near Camelback Mountain when she was with her children, and they saw some large craft that was so...
Camelback Mountain, let's see where that is. Camelback Mountain. Oh, that's in Phoenix. Right here. All right. Well, I guess if you're on top of a mountain, or at least anywhere elevated here, get a good view.
So big, it virtually blocked out the sky.
My oldest daughter came running in and said, "You guys have got to come see this. It's coming over Camelback Mountain." And so we all went running out, and we ended up staying out there a while because it took quite a while to come over the mountain.
Relative to Camelback Mountain from your vantage point, was it about as wide or wider than Camelback Mountain?
It probably was way wider.
Wow.
I want to
Get
just
out
do
of
a little
here.
shout out to Sue.
It was wider than the mountain? Wider than this? They said it was wider than this. If it's like flying over, it's like this. It's like huge. Is that possible?
And just how high quality a witness she is. She's probably the first report I received.
It was a huge aircraft, so we were under it for quite a while.
How long would you say if you had to guess?
From the first time we saw it, it was over 10 minutes, I'm sure. It was extremely slow. It had to be going like a mile an hour or something. And then it slowly went over my house, and we were fascinated.
10 minutes. It's over you for 10 minutes. If it's going that slowly and it's not that far from the ground, how do you keep something in the air for that long.
That anything that big could fly without sound.
Stuff.
That is an artist's rendition of what passed directly over Sue Watson. There's her original handwritten drawing. She faxed this to me on Sunday the 16th.
And could you make out the craft structure between the lights?
Yeah, it was totally solid because you couldn't see anything through it.
Solid.
It had 7 lights in front and they were amber and you could tell the shape of it. It was like a boomerang. And we all agreed on the shape, you know, because we were under it.
When that craft that had hovered over her home started moving to the south, it then accelerated suddenly, and I did not know this until she said it yesterday. The wings seemed to fold backwards to make it more streamlined. That's the first I'd ever heard of that.
It was so weird because we were all watching it, and it folded up and it shot off.
Huh.
It folded up in the back and shot off. And then that's when I heard Erin yell, "Oh my God!" And the boys go, "Yeah, where did it go?" And she said, "Mom, it folded up and went."
Like,
and that's
really
what made me
fast?
So this thing that is just kind of drifting for 10 minutes over them, all of a sudden accelerates, blasts off, flies away. I guess you couldn't catch like where it went ultimately.
Really fast,
Like
it was gone.
Like it just blinked to another part of the sky, basically?
Like I felt like it was approaching where the airport would have seen it.
A Boeing crew was coming into Sky Harbor International Airport and reported one of these craft was hovering over their tarmac.
The craft crossed the pattern of the outbound runways at Sky Harbor, and airline pilots who were at Sky Harbor Airport refused to leave the gate when they saw this huge object hovering over the airport.
We called the airport because I knew it had gone over the airport.
What did they say to you?
They said they didn't know what I was talking about, and they gave me Peter Davenport's phone number as the place in the country where you report UFO sightings. And I went, "How do you know this was a UFO?"
So
that's dumb. I don't like that. How do you know this is a UFO? A UFO is an unidentified flying object. So anything you see in the sky that you don't know what it is a UFO. So she's like, "How do you know it was a UFO?" You literally saw a UFO. You saw something in the sky, a flying object, unidentified. He didn't say, "Oh, if you saw aliens, call this alien hotline."
As Peter got off the phone with Sue, the first thing he did was call Luke Air Force Base to see what, if anything, they might know about all these UFOs that he's been hearing about over the skies of Arizona.
I called Luke Air Force Base. I was directed to the switchboard. They're the ones who answered. I said, "I'm Peter Davenport. I'm the director of the National UFO Reporting Center. I have reports of very unusual events over Phoenix tonight, and I wonder if you could please put me in touch with the officer of the day."
And that's when he met a gatekeeper. So he immediately knew something was off.
And he said, "Well, I'm Staff Sergeant so-and-so." And I said, "Well, I'd like to speak to the officer of the day." And he said, "Mr. Davenport, I am the commander of Luke Air Force Base tonight." Now, any of you who've been in the military or have experience in that venue know that they don't put a sergeant in charge of a major Air Force base.
So once he realized he was going to get nowhere with his military guy, he would go on to take calls for a few more hours, and right before he was going to go to bed for the day, he got one last call.
Do you know if there was a military response to the Phoenix Lights?
Well, most people have no idea that at 3 a.m., an alleged crewman called Peter Davenport.
He said that he received a phone call that same night from an airman from Luke Air Force Base
to report that one of these craft was hovering right over central Phoenix. And he said jets were sent off to intercept and get gun camera film.
I went to bed at about 0300 Friday morning. Thank heavens, I think the Lord intervened on my behalf. I forgot to turn the ringer off on the telephone as I usually do at night when I go to bed.
He almost didn't pick it up, but then reluctantly, he did.
So I picked it up. This very bright sounding voice said, "Mr. Davenport," he said, "my name is such and such." He said, "You don't know me, but I know you. I am a U.S. Air Force airman at Luke Air Force Base. I have information that I would like to share with you, and the only reason I'm able to share it with you is because I have not yet been ordered not to tell you."
That's kind of weird, right? This guy is like, I haven't been ordered not to tell you, so I'm going to tell you. Kind of weird. A little fishy.
What happened?
And over the course of this conversation, he learned that not only was the military taking this very seriously, but Sue and her kids might have potentially witnessed firsthand the actual encounter that the military had with one of these craft.
And we have civilians
Not real footage.
that saw military jets take off from the Air Force Base.
All of this comes from the airman. He was on duty that night. He helped scramble those two F-15s.
The airman told him they had scrambled 2 fighter jets.
All hell broke loose, basically. From my understanding, at approximately 8:32, they encountered something over Phoenix, Arizona. They don't know what it was.
You said it was around 8:30?
8:30ish, yeah. The planes were in the north part of the
Yeah, they were
city
saying
going
that,
east.
And it was
they
2
were saying
planes right
around
next
8
to each
o'clock,
other?
Yeah, it was definitely more than one. It was a couple of planes.
My understanding is that she, or perhaps her 4 children, were witness to 2 airplanes coming from the north that were approaching the craft above her.
But it wasn't like I was looking, where did the planes go or anything.
Yeah.
When you've got this UFO that you realize is probably miles long.
Isn't that kind of weird how, like, I feel like it's rare that you see 2 planes flying next to each other, no?
I don't even know. I do know we have Luke Air Force Base, so I didn't see. I wouldn't have even thought about that.
His statement was that they followed this aircraft over the area of 7th Avenue and Indian School Road. It went on a straight line course heading towards Sky Harbor.
I wonder if there were any commercial airlines flying, if they saw any of these things too. I would love to hear from them what they saw up there.
Airport crossed the pattern of the outbound runways.
Didn't they send someone out?
Well, the Air Force says 7th Avenue and Indian School Road is where they intercepted it.
Oh my God, isn't that funny? And I'm on 60th Street, right below Indian School. And we're looking at it. And I'm on 6th
School Road is
runways. Didn't they send someone out?
Well, the Air Force says 7th Avenue and Indian
7th Ave and Indian School Road. Let's see. Ave. School Road. So about here is where they intercepted it. Here. That's pretty north. Camelback Mountains, somewhere over here.
Indian School Road is where they intercepted it.
Oh my God, isn't that funny? And I'm on 60th Street, right below Indian School. And we're looking at it thinking, oh, it's just over.
Alright, so here's where they were. It says that she's at 60th. Right below it. Where is 60th? Oh, regardless, she says she was right there.
Over the mountain, but Peter's the one who told me. He said, Sue, it wasn't just over the mountain. It was over half the city.
Are you familiar with the term white noise, blanking out radar? My understanding is that's what they got, was strictly white noise. His statement was that they followed this aircraft at approximately 18,000 feet, descending to 10,005. When it got to Angels 10, it completely went dark.
They encountered this craft at, in military jargon, they say Angels 10.
Angels 10 is aviation terminology that means on the high side of 10,000 feet. That's what gives us the estimate of the altitude of this object.
And that apparently a blue beam of light was shot in front of them.
10,000 feet up.
10,000 feet.
One of the things we heard Sue talk about was the fact that she witnessed the object fire down a bolt of light that I believe she says struck the ground. Very interesting phenomenon.
You had mentioned something about like a blue beam getting fired at the ground or something like that.
Yeah, there was I remember that. It was like a laser. It went toward downtown Phoenix, and it was so weird because it was coming slowly over the mountain. and it wasn't all the way over us yet. That's when we saw the beam go west.
I have evidence that suggests that at this moment, 2 F-15, U.S. Air Force F-15 fighters were approaching this object just as this object fired a bolt of light down that I suspect struck the ground.
The beam, it was silent?
Yeah, it didn't have any noise.
Huh.
The whole thing didn't have any noise.
And it came out of the craft?
Yeah, it came from the right side.
Whoa.
Several of us saw it. And I was like, that's different. If the kids go, did you see that? And it was still coming over us, you know?
Whoa.
My suspicion is that that may have been an indicator from this object to the F-15s that they were not to fire on it, that it was an armed craft. They'd better be careful.
The pilots took that.
That's freaky, right? The pilots are getting close to the craft, and then all of a sudden, it shoots out like a warning beam to be like, hey, don't shoot at us, don't get too close.
As standoff or stand back. And, you know, so they turned their planes and went back to base. One of the pilots was so shook up that, according to the airmen, they had to pick him up and carry him out of the cockpit.
Again, alleged. Did that actually happen? Who knows?
The pilots were very disoriented, to say the least, by what had been
Like, how do you know that?
I've never seen this man scared. After they landed, we had a complete lockdown.
The two pilots must have had an unrivaled view of that object that they were flying towards.
Now, Peter thinks that footage of this encounter might exist somewhere in the military's possession, potentially taken by the onboard equipment of the F-15.
The two F-15s had Lantern II pods. A Lantern II pod has optical devices that allow the pilot to visually capture a target and identify it visually.
It scared the hell out of them. They have no radar tape of it. They have gun camera film of it.
Which brings up the question, has anybody actually seen this footage?
Love to see it.
We only knew the name of one pilot, Mel Wilder. In my one conversation with him, which was a meeting at a Denny's restaurant, he brought a small video player with him, and we watched it down below the table, you know, looking at it, and he was telling me what it was.
So he showed you the actual video from the craft that he was flying in approach to the whatever is above the sky?
He showed me a video. Yeah.
A little bit of a spoiler alert. This guy is a little bit implicated in all this. So take everything he says with a grain of salt. So he's saying he saw this video. Did you really see the video? Maybe. At a Denny's? Maybe.
It was probably a copy of the video that he had made.
Yep, according to Jim Teletoso, the pilot's name was Mel Wilder, and using the help of Peter Davenport, he was able to arrange a meeting with this guy at a local diner.
And this is the same guy who you said had to be lifted out of the cockpit that Peter Davenport was talking.
Peter Davenport thought that this was the same guy, yeah. Peter was the one that gave me the name, and I knew people that were contractors that were able to help me get in touch with him. He didn't know I was gonna come to the restaurant and see him.
So really, you had to find this guy. He wasn't seeking you out.
That is correct.
And apparently during that conversation, the pilot showed Jim under the table this exact video in question.
He referred to coming in at an angle where he could see two lights, like the
pilot showed Jim under the table this exact video in question.
He referred to coming in at an angle where he could see two lights, like the side of an object. He didn't say that. He saw two lights. And he went for the closest one, coming in diagonally. He came up close to it, and as he got close enough that he was going to bank and go, that it accelerated it much faster than he did and disappeared.
So the lights went off as he approached it.
It moved a little bit and then went off.
But little did everyone know at the time, this video would just be the tip of the iceberg, because the media, which had stayed silent for months, would finally break its silence when the government decided to make a statement of its own.
Jim Teletoso, president of Village Labs in Tempe, says he thinks the federal government should do research with the local government.
We're reaching a point where there needs to be
a
consolidated
That's young him.
effort and an open swapping of information.
On the morning of Friday, May 9th, Jim Dilettoso was talking to a reporter who asked his opinion on why the government hasn't said anything about what was in the sky that night. And jokingly, he said to the reporter that if they had any hope of trying to get the government involved, their best bet would be to corner one of the politicians on their way to one of the city council meetings.
I had a friend in from out of town that was a news segment producer, and I knew that there was going to be a city council meeting. So I suggested that she go down and find this person, this one, or this one. So she waited outside of the city hall building. She saw Frances coming up and walked up to her.
Enter Councilwoman Frances Emma Barwood, who during 1997 was the vice mayor of Phoenix.
My name is Frances Emma Barwood. That night I was driving north when it was going south, so I didn't know anything about it until after the event happened.
And on the morning of May 9th, a reporter approached her as she was on her way to the city council meeting that morning.
I was going to the next council meeting, and the reporter came up to me and said that I would be the one to talk to. And I said, about what? And she said about the object that flew over Phoenix on March 13th. That was kind of the first I heard of it.
And Frances agreed that she would find out more about it. Tell her later. So she brought it up that night in the city council meeting.
I was on my way to the council meeting, and I decided that I would ask them about it, and I did.
Kind of curious, especially since people are starting to ask more questions.
I told them the reporter asked me, and I said, what happened? What was this object that went over? It was total silence.
Thank you.
That's weird. Total silence.
What happened? What was this object that went over?
Asking everyone.
Total silence.
No one's looking at her. No one's saying anything. But at the same time, why didn't she push a little bit? Why didn't she go like, hello, like, what happened? Oh, we need some answers here, you know, just like a little something. But she immediately folds. She asks and then just folds and says, like, thank you, and it's okay, let's move on. You don't want to talk about it, we're not talking about it. But you gotta try just a little bit more.
That went over. It was total silence.
Thank you. Councilman Schubert.
And it was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Something big flew over Arizona that was an unidentified, humongous thing, and nobody's talking about it.
Which seemed really strange to Frances, because to her that was a completely logical question, but for some reason it seemed like everybody else in the meeting knew something that she didn't, and they basically gave her the cold shoulder.
It was astounding to me that they were told not to talk about it, and I kept thinking, why were they told not to talk? To this day, I don't know why they were told not to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting that everybody...
Maybe they were told not to talk about it, or maybe they were all like, hey, I don't want to come off as being crazy. I don't want to be this government position, and then giving, you know, credibility to these UFO whack jobs, basically, right? UFOs have a stigma to it. Like, that's crazy. So they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to be part of that.
Was told not to talk to you about it. It seems like everyone kind of got the memo. Why were you the only one who didn't get the memo?
Or they were told. Maybe they were told. Don't talk about it.
I was told that if they felt that if they told me not to talk about it, that I would push it. But I did it anyway, because I'm a curious person. Something big happens, it's like you don't sit back and say, oh, well, that was that.
The day this happened, Frances calls me up and tells me what she did with the reporter and at the city council. And she's looking for a response from me after she tells me what she just did. And I said, well, how bad could it be if you're just asking for the truth?
It was interesting because there was one staff member that came to me after the council meeting.
You shouldn't even have to, like, rationalize that. How bad could it be if you're just asking for the truth? It's like, that's what we should be talking about. That's like the very basis. We're talking about truth here. Let's talk about, you know, let's talk about what's going on. No lies.
and said, I'm not supposed to talk to you about this, but you need to know that something really big flew over Phoenix, and I hope you find out what it is. And unfortunately, 2 weeks later, he passed away, so I could never ask any more about that.
The next day, news of Frances Barwood's interest in UFOs hit the newspapers, and the media, who had stayed silent for months, had a field day with her reputation. But despite what the newspapers were saying, the witnesses...
The other government officials were probably afraid of. They were like, man, I don't want that happening to me. They're calling her a loopy.
Who were hungry for any updates finally had an outlet from someone in a position of power to listen to what they saw.
There was a lot of people that called my office because they saw it on TV, the whole council meeting.
By the end of the weekend, they had so many people calling. Her office filled up her phone, filled up all the other council people's phone.
I had a list. It was like 800 people called. I wrote them all down. I had it all secured.
Within a month, we had a library of UFO stuff that was sent to us. I couldn't believe this was happening.
And it was like, wow, all these people saw this object. I didn't, but if they all saw it, then obviously something big happened.
And it was around this time that Frances and her husband, Mike Savelis, would themselves start personally showing up to these town hall meetings that were being held every month at Village Labs in Tempe, Arizona.
There were groups of people that got together and invited me to be there, not to speak or anything, but just to listen to what they saw.
At what point in this timeline did Frances Barwood get involved and start hanging around Village Labs?
I wouldn't say she was hanging around Village Labs. She was very appointment driven. Then Mike came just to make sure that his wife wasn't hanging out with crazy people.
There was a place called Village Labs at the time. They're doing all the research on the lights, trying to figure out what kind of a vehicle this could be.
But in my eyes, it's just they're just trying to see what happened, right? That's all they're trying to see. This thing, all these people saw things. There's video footage. Let's figure out what it was. That's all.
The lights.
He had a friend that did image analysis, forensic image analysis, that he brought with him to inspect our place and see if we really knew what we were doing.
And what did Mike conclude?
We passed the audition. He hired us to play band the next day.
Today. I know we're having a secret meeting. Okay, Jim.
Again.
Mike, I guess, concluded that we were people in the know, at least about some things.
We didn't even know there was a UFO society.
Mike Savelis felt that joining up with Frances and us would be a good thing for both of us. She could give some credibility to the fact that government people might be looking into it.
There was people that came to some of the meetings that were also military, and the one lady came up to me, and they were standing in the back, and she was in uniform, and she said, "You didn't hear this from me, but you're on the right track." And then she walked away, and it was like, what do I do with that?
Former Phoenix City Councilwoman Frances Emma Barwood is the only city official to try to look into it.
The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. Not only the fact that it seems nobody wants to talk about this, nobody wants to deal with it. At the very least, we should look at it as a public safety.
So for just a second here, I want to give my point of view on all of this. So all this video, eyewitness testimony, yeah, it seems like something happened. What happened? Who knows? Was it aliens? Maybe. Was it some top secret program? Maybe. I think something happened. I don't know what happened. If it's not aliens, then, you know, it is what it is. It would be super cool if it were aliens. Could you imagine, like some confirmation that there is some other beings, whether they're from space or different dimension or whatever. It's cool because it's like this supernatural thing happening, you know? It's like you want to believe, want it to be true. And this seems like something unexplainable. And yeah, it's just like, it would be really cool if it were aliens, but it might not be aliens, so who knows? The only thing I know for sure is that this is very entertaining. At the very least, even if people, making things up, it's explained by some other strange aerial phenomena, it's still very entertaining.
Issue, and if it is military, shame on them for coming over solo and risking so much.
And then suddenly on June 18th, for whatever reason, front page USA Today article came out, and for the first time people were hearing it outside of Arizona, that we had this massive mass sighting here. We didn't have social media at the time. It went viral. The next morning, it was on every national morning show, Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, you name it.
Are we alone? No, I don't mean just you and me. I mean this Earth. The buzz is very big in the desert Southwest.
We were deluged overnight by media from all over the world. And once they started talking to the witnesses, their stories were so detailed and so heartfelt that they too were asking, why isn't there an investigation?
Again, you got to remember, this is 1997. You can't just be posting things, online, and people are seeing it immediately. This took a while for word to get around, for national news to pick it up. So all of a sudden, once this catches wind, just blew up for a little bit here.
Investigation, why isn't there an explanation?
Those strange lights over the valley we've been telling you about, nobody knows exactly what those lights were.
We checked with the FAA today, we checked with Sky Harbor, and we checked with Luke Air Force Base, and there's been no official explanation.
The people that saw that believe what they saw was an alien spacecraft.
The very next day, the 19th, suddenly we get an announcement, public announcement, that then Governor Fife Symington was calling an unscheduled press conference for that afternoon.
Today, in a surprising move, Governor Symington got into the fray, announcing he was going to get to the bottom of the mystery.
Now, Governor Symington himself has launched an official investigation.
What were those lights up in the sky back in March? Today, the governor said he was going to find.
Take this to get like national, international attention for this guy to be like, all right, I'm gonna do an investigation onto what happened here. Why did it got to go that far?
Find out.
Fife Symington came on and said that this event had happened with the lights, and he was going to put together an investigation and get to the bottom of it.
Many of our citizens have been very disturbed by this. In response, I suggested that it was time to end months of speculation on the question and investigate the matter once and for all to clear it up.
I thought that was great.
People took it seriously. I took it seriously. I was looking for any logical explanation.
Fife Symington would then go on to do something that nobody, even Francis, was expecting.
I believe it a serious offense for anyone, human, space alien, or otherwise, to engage in mysterious activity in our nighttime skies. That is why I will personally ask that the perpetrator be prosecuted to the fullest for the havoc wrought on our entire community.
He comes marching out one of his aides.
Brings him over and says, well, the guilty party will come over and expose himself.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party.
Brings out his chief of staff, tall man with a giant rubber alien mask on.
Don't get him too close to me, please. Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Right? Giant thing.
Takes off his rubber mask and everybody goes,
like a half a second later, like, oh, the joke.
And what was promised to be a serious press conference with real answers turned out to be nothing but a practical joke.
Which was really disconcerting. Not only for the witnesses, but some parents. There were children that saw something 2-3 miles wide, and he's making a joke out of it.
Everybody in town shows up, pens, pads, all at the ready. And it turned out to be a joke at the media's expense.
You know, it's important to
make a joke,
approach things in life with a little bit of humor.
And he says it's just his annual summer joke.
That's right.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
For me, it wasn't a joke. Okay.
Well, I'm going to be as polite as I can. I was really infuriated with the joke.
I just hope I don't meet him face to face.
How dare you do this and dismiss us like that?
I just didn't have time for that kind of stuff. When you see something like that with 4 other people that are all pretty intelligent, and then you hear that and you see that silliness.
A lot of people started laughing at me. Oh, that's what you saw. It's a guy in a rubber suit.
Again, I'm not in a club. I don't read UFO anything. I just know what I saw, and it was not something from this earth.
First of all, if you knew Fife, he did not have a sense of humor like that. So it was obvious somebody told him, you have to do this and make it like it's a joke.
What a valuable lesson that was, to learn the power of shame and the power of intimidation and how that can make you shut up.
You quit talking about it. You quit sharing. Even my family, my dad did say to me, it's already been debunked.
And I did. I shut up for quite a while after that.
We felt, the pit of my stomach, and all of us there at Village Labs felt like betrayed, but it wasn't his job to protect us. He didn't even know we existed. We just felt like awful things were going to be being thought about us. That we had done all of this testing and analysis just to get on television.
Then, about a month after that, Captain Eileen Benz of the local Air Force came out with an official statement in the Arizona Republic claiming that she had finally found the actual explanation to the Phoenix Lights. They were military flares. Case closed.
The Maryland National Guard has claimed they were responsible for the Phoenix Lights. They say they were dropping flares from A-10 jets during a military exercise.
In that article, she even referenced Village Labs and the videos that they were storing as proof that they had to be military flares, because the way that they faded out is explained by the fact that the flares were dropping behind the mountaintops of South Mountain.
Our A-10 Thunderbolts that are right behind me were on a night illumination exercise over the Very Goldwater Range complex.
South Mountain, I want to check that out. Going behind South Mountain. Yeah. So basically, we've flown this way, then gone. And these guys got to see it, I guess, right? Like, what? Surely they were all seeing it. Just disappear? Just despawn? Where did it go? Did it go up? Did it fly back into space, right? Flew all the way up and away? And why? Why was it? Why were they there? Just vacationing? It's just like a like an alien vacation. They're just, let's go check out this Earth town, this Earth city. Go take a peek at them.
Like southwest of Phoenix, and they were dropping high-intensity flares, and we think that those flares were mistakenly called UFOs by the folks in the valley in Phoenix there.
Which is a very ironic statement to make, because Jim Delatoso of Village Labs was already publicly on record saying that these lights in the videos were anything but flares.
They cannot be flares. Their optical characteristics, their motion pattern, and the geometry of where they physically are located, none of those match up with flares being discharged at any military base in this state.
Yeah, they say that it couldn't be flares, and they're about to explain exactly why, but I have to step away for 1 second. Just give me a couple minutes. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. See why they don't think it's flares.
So what about some of the videos suggested they weren't flares?
Their relationship to each other. There was no movement. The light color of the light was wrong.
You see, with all the fancy computers at Village Labs, they had analyzed these videos using a technique called spectrum analysis.
Not spectral. That's different. It's spectrum analysis to categorize lights by the amount of red, green, and blue that's in every light in the frame.
Which essentially compared the unknown balls of light against other known balls of light already in their database.
So we were matching images to see what they were in a database. Like fingerprints. Got 1 million fingerprints in file. You get an unknown fingerprint, see if you get a match.
They're saying, does this match
you know
flares? Does this
if you don't
flash?
get a match,
Does this
let's see,
match?
what's that called? It's called an unknown.
Lights?
Jim Dilatoso says the lights do not fit the
Airplane
spectrum profile of any known object, including flares.
And in the Phoenix Lights videos, there was hundreds of lights on the ground, and airplanes and street lights and car lights that we had to categorize and index every single one of those.
On this image, we have the flares that have been shot by a local news crew that went down to the gunnery range. And you can see up here the red, green, and blue components of this flare light form kind of a cluster. Now let's go over here and just look at another one of these lights and see if they have any characteristics that are similar. This is a really messy one. See, the red, green, and blue are way out of alignment.
We analyzed all the different choices that it could be and came to the conclusion that it was very mysterious lights, not flares. We didn't know what it was.
Anomalous lights.
It wasn't flares way over there.
Now let's go over to the light from the Mike Kristen Moon Valley shot down here. Now the most obvious difference is that the light from the unknown shot by Mike Kristen is a clear wave shape where the components, red, green, and blue, are graphs that are right on top of each other. When we compare all the different light sources to each other, we find that only the unknown objects in all of the video have this purity of wave shape.
All of those principles are applied.
Pretty crazy how we were able to do that in '97. We're able to take that tape, that VHS tape, and analyze it and say this is what's being shown in this footage.
To street lights and car lights and airplane lights and the Phoenix lights and flares, and comparing them all and say, well, what properties do each one of those have over time, over 10 seconds, over 2 minutes?
These are the flares. These are the unknowns. If we look at the flares, they are the red.
Right.
The way that the flares come on is a very uneven pathway, and they're flickering and changing, and then they die and go out.
The flares come on like this. So the graph looks like this. The Phoenix lights are a stair step.
The unknowns come on in a very regimented pathway. Stay exactly.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, I'm just showing you exactly what he already showed us, but look at flare up and down. And then this footage is going bloop, bloop, bloop. Down, down, down. Exactly like stairs. Yeah, look at that. On. Weird.
The same, and then go out in a very gentle, intelligent manner.
And it's like someone went click, 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 brighter, 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 and it goes off the same way. That element alone was very interesting.
And because of this analysis that he'd already been doing for months, they had already concluded that these were simply not flares.
There was nothing in the videos that made me think it was flares. I just dismissed it and got on to the next thing. There's no reason to hang in there and keep trying to squeeze out something, anything, to say, yes, it was flares.
Because it's not just the lights, it's radar masking.
It's so funny how like different he looks. This is him in 97, 98, whenever he's being recorded here. And he looks, you know, he's got his suit on and whatnot, and now he's just like almost like a hunter, like he's going out hunting, right?
Hundreds of witnesses seeing it fly overhead.
And to make this mystery even stranger, over 10 years later, once the dust had already settled, Fife Symington, who is no longer in government at the time, would come out to the UFO community and publicly state on stage that he himself had actually witnessed a UFO in the sky on March 13th, 1997.
My remarks are pretty short. I'm Fife Symington.
So now
in
this guy's coming
1997,
out
during
saying,
my
yeah,
second term as governor of Arizona, I saw something that defied logic and challenged my reality. I witnessed a massive delta-shaped craft that
The hell's a delta-shaped craft? What does that mean?
silently navigated over the Squaw Peak area in North Phoenix. It appeared to be a solid structure. It was huge, and it was just traveling quietly, made no sound, through the Arizona night sky.
A completely different tune than he was singing at the time when all the people of Arizona were hungry for answers.
I can definitively say that this craft did not resemble any man-made object that I'd ever seen, and it was certainly not high-altitude flares, because I've never seen flares fly in formation.
Either way, the damage was done. And since the governor, along with the Air Force, was essentially saying there was zero paranormal explanation to the lights seen over Phoenix, people sort of stopped talking about it. And the credibility of Village Labs and all the scientists that work there, well, it took a hit.
Never called me to apologize for any ill will that might have hit our company, including some rather dignified people that also worked at Village Labs.
He was in the position to really ask some hard questions, but he didn't. And the only thing I can think of is who's ever in charge of everything, military and everything else, probably said, you know, if you say this, this, and this, you're in trouble.
When people would ask him, why are you doing this now? What about this rubber alien mask back then? He's really never given a good answer for that. But no news means the following to me, that there were people that wanted him to discredit the Phoenix Lights.
If you look at what was going on politically at that time, the man was in trouble. You know, he had all these indictments for fraud.
Symington is spending much of his time these days in court for his fraud trial.
He had exaggerated the value of a piece of property.
Sucks.
And
so
it got a bank loan against it, and he was going to be prosecuted for fraud and sent to jail, and they did that. They did that.
And Governor Symington returns to court tomorrow morning at 9:30 as his federal fraud trial continues.
Symington made a deal with the devil. He had to
Allegedly,
do whatever they
possibly.
wanted, not to go to jail. He didn't go to jail. A week after he did that thing with the alien interview and taking the thing off, they dropped all charges.
So there's a lot of meatballs and vegetables floating around in that mulligan stew of why something was done and what was the end result. If that was even true, that he saw the Phoenix Lights. He seems like a good enough fellow, smart and capable, polite, honorable, but look at all this other yucky stuff that went on.
If I was a witness and I did something like that to get off, it would weigh heavy on me. So it weighed heavy on him probably, and he had to clear it. And he did the best he could.
So do you think that Fife actually saw anything that night, or do you think he just says that?
I don't know.
Look at how
Fife actually
clear it. And he
they
did the
asked
best
him a
he could.
question, and he does this a lot.
Fife actually saw anything that night, or do you think he just says that?
He like breathes in, he thinks about his answer, he does the big sigh, and then he answers.
I don't know.
Seems like you have doubts.
Well, like he made up other things, he could make that up.
And as if this story couldn't already get any messier. The star witness who would essentially break this case wide open had yet to come forward.
First on Fox tonight, the men in black get caught up in those strange lights over Phoenix.
UFO investigators now claim that some video of the lights has mysteriously disappeared.
Now we get into the Men in Black.
Taken by Men in Black, no less.
It was the beginning of July when Frances Barwood would get a call from a man named Richard Curtis.
There was a man, Richard Curtis, who lived in I think it was the Westwood Ho. It was a tall apartment complex in Phoenix. He apparently took some really good pictures. He called me and wanted to talk to me.
Richard Curtis claims his home video is proof that this sighting was a huge flying craft, and he claims his video shows a solid object in the sky passing over his home.
He had CB equipment. He was listening, that was his hobby, listening to the truckers. So he heard that they were traveling south and they saw this big object going south. So he got his video camera and went out on the deck and saw it coming, and he videotaped it. And he said it was absolutely unlike anything he's ever seen in his entire life.
Again, if this happened today, 2026, would have so much footage of whatever this thing was. And apparently this footage that this guy took was apparently crystal clear.
And
we do not have it.
And he had the video.
Curtis calls Phoenix Councilwoman Barwood to show her the footage.
He had it on these 2 videotapes, and he asked me if I would like them.
He said he took it on his deck. Was it like a really close video?
He said he was right. It was right above him, and he got it like really good.
What people don't understand, the footage that Richard Curtis took, the way he put it, when he was talking to us on the phone, the reflection of downtown Phoenix lights reflected onto the vehicle. He saw structure on the vehicle. It wasn't just the lights.
I saw the bottom of it as it went over the top of Phoenix. The lights of Phoenix lit up the bottom part of it, and it blocked out the clouds and the stars.
Now, Frances was obviously interested in seeing this video that Richard claims that he took.
And I talked to him and I said, if you could, get the video that you took to my office, because it wasn't very far away from City Hall where he lived. And he said he would.
Is this a solid craft or merely lights in an empty sky? What could be the conclusive evidence is now mysteriously missing.
And then he called me again and said, what did you think of the video? And I said, I never got the video.
He waited 10 days before he called us and said, what did you think of the video? The first thing he asked us.
And then he said, well, 2 men came here and said
24, 48 hours.
They were coming to pick up the video for you.
And the first thing they asked, asked us.
And then he said, well, 2 men came here and said that, they were coming to pick up the video for you.
And the first thing they asked him, and he told us this, is, did you make copies? And he says, no, I haven't had time to make copies yet, but I got 2 tapes because one ran out and I had to go to the second tape. He said, that's okay, we'll make the copies for you.
And I said, I don't have 2 men working in my...
Don't worry about it, we'll make copies. Wow. So it got intercepted by the Men in Black. Oh, this is from a movie, Alien Code 2018. I was like, what is this? That's funny. They intercepted it so easily. They just went up there. They said, "Hey, I'm with her. We're here to pick them up. You make copies? Nope. All right, cool. Thanks. Thanks for the tapes." Also, if we did get the footage, the fact that he stopped taping with the first one, switched to the second one, where there would be a lot of like, "Oh man, if only he had used the good tape so that he could have recorded everything," right? So regardless, there would have been some time missing, right? Between him stopping, switching over to the next tape.
Okay, we'll make the copies for you.
And I said, I don't have 2 men working in my office. I don't know who they were.
We didn't get to see it because it never came to us. because Frances at the time didn't have any men working in her
They didn't
office.
make
It was
copies.
all women.
I have no
You don't
idea
have time
who
to
these
make
two men
copies.
were, since I have just females working in my office. So it's just absolutely puzzling to me.
So, did you get a
I wonder what they would have done if he was like, yeah, I made some copies. Would they have been like, oh, we'll take those two? What would they have done? Right?
description of
Where
what
are
the two men
they?
looked like from him?
He said, yeah. And from the manager of the Westwood Ho and the one who was with him when they came in, it was 120 degrees out in Phoenix. They pulled up in a black car. They said they got out, they had black suits on and black hats.
That's
They
not
looked
actual
identical.
video.
And he said they came in and asked for Richard Curtis.
They were all dressed in black suits, and they had the black hats and sunglasses. And they asked me if I had tapes for City Councilwoman Barwood.
And he said they couldn't understand how they could be dressed in black regular business suits and hats in the weather that was hotter than hot. And they told him where Richard Curtis's, room was, and that was that.
The men in black are always depicted as like supernatural beings, as if like they themselves are aliens. But I don't think that's the case. I think that's just kind of imagination being put on them. I think they're just normal people. I think that they are dressed that way for whatever reason. I don't know. They're serious. They're taking everything very serious, I guess. So they put it on and they deal with whatever climate it is, hot, cold, whatever. But I don't think that they're like supernatural beings. I do not think so. But again, maybe. We're talking about aliens, who knows? Maybe.
And I said, yeah, they're laying right here. And they said, well, we just stopped by to pick them up. I said, oh, great. And I just handed it to them.
So, what you described to me sounds like the classic Men in Black. I mean, is that what they were?
Men in Black.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? And the way they said it, they were identical. They looked like just total identical.
Yeah, again, they
And
look
it's like,
identical.
this is getting creepier and creepier.
Which brings up the question, where is Richard Curtis today?
He ended up actually being
Could you imagine if it was like shape-shifting aliens that just like look like that, and they're like, oh, this guy's got footage. You have to get the footage, and like it's not government, it's like the aliens themselves. So that'd be freaky.
on television talking about it, and then that's when the manager said they came with an ambulance.
The crazy thing, if you're considering aliens, it's like anything is possible, you know?
And said that he was really sick, and they took him, and then he disappeared, and nobody's seen him or heard from him ever again.
When you said he was never seen again, what do you mean by that?
The people at the Westwood Ho said they came and took him. They don't know where they took him, but he never came back for his things or anything. They have no idea what, nobody knows what.
Like, why? He's gonna start telling what he saw, yada yada. There's people already telling what he saw, what they saw. That guy at the beginning with that lava lamp lights, he's saying that he saw the flags, the rainbow colored flags. He's telling his story.
What happened to him?
So just so I understand, they showed up twice. Once for the tape and once for him.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't know what they said. They had an ambulance come for him, that he was really sick. That what the Westwood Ho was, I don't know if it still is, was for retired military who were handicapped, and Richard was handicapped in some way. I don't know what, but they came to get him. They said he was sick, and they took him away in an ambulance and never came back.
Did you ever try to track him down?
Nobody knows what happened.
But the real reason...
Sounds like a good lead for this guy, right? Patrick James, look into that guy, right? There's nothing on where this guy went.
Frances was so shaken up by this news was that her and her husband could not figure out for the life of them how anybody would know that this guy had just told her about this tape, and then within a day had gone over to this guy's place to get that tape.
I think somebody listened in on a phone call and wanted them tapes.
I figured, is my phone line tapped? So I called a friend who knew someone who could check out my phone line.
We swept the house half a dozen times. couldn't find a bug anywhere. And I was certain something was going on because there was no way people could know what was going on the phone.
And the man who checked it out said, I am not coming in your house. Your phone is tapped, and it's a federal tap.
And he wouldn't come into the house. Once he figured out that it was down at the switchgear downtown, the main switch for the phone company was the one that had the tap on the line.
President.
And from that point on, he said, I'm out of here. This is a government tap. And he left.
And it's like, so no matter what I say on the phone, they're listening to me? Nothing made sense.
And to make matters even worse, all the records that Frances Barwood had regarding the Phoenix Lights, it was all being stored at Village Labs in a safe. And shortly after they discovered this federal wiretap, Village Labs was broken into. And the only thing that was taken was every one of her records.
Everything gets put into the safe at Village Lab. Everything that was conducted with witnesses, names,
broken, and they took
phone numbers, all gets in one place. Nobody makes copies.
Why don't you make copies?
Village Labs got stolen.
Unfortunately, my list disappeared, and it was like, what happened to my list?
They collected everything.
What a classic blunder. You gotta back your stuff up. Always back your stuff up, no matter what it is.
That had any substance to the Phoenix Lights, so that there was nothing of any real substance except for the people that are witnesses coming forth. The fact that they collected everything so that nobody has any proof, that wouldn't all take place unless there was something they wanted to cover up.
Now, I've got to admit, when I first heard this Richard Curtis story directly from Frances, I had no idea what to make of it. Because not only was this about some strange UFOs being seen in the sky like I originally thought this video would be, but this was now about men in black suits, wiretaps, missing people, and stolen evidence. It sounded like something straight out of a movie. And to make it even more surreal, the movie Men in Black had literally been released in July of 1997, that same exact month.
Ironically, the movie Men in Black came out in July of 1997.
Did it?
But the part that really stuck with me was the break-in at Village Labs. I couldn't stop wondering, with a
So were there stories about Men in Black prior to this? Probably. I think I've heard about that whole Men in Black thing. Oh, there were two Men in Black and they were identical and they were you know, they were moving in identical ways. Very weird.
Place as public as that, surely there's got to be some record about this break-in. And if there was a record about it, I was curious to know what those records would say. And it was that one lingering, unanswered question that would inevitably get me way too close to this story. Because what I would do next would no longer allow me to be a passive listener of the story, but would now thrust me smack dab into the middle of it. And that's because
this is wild. Now, like, he becomes a part of this whole thing.
Because I decided to reach out to Jim Delatoso.
Hey Jim, how you doing?
That's Jim.
Now, before I'd met Jim, I had heard from several sources that for the most part, he'd try to stay out of the public eye for the last, 10 to 15 years and hadn't really done too many interviews. I wasn't quite clear on why, so when I did get connected to him, I decided to proceed with caution.
So about the Phoenix Lights, what's the framework of the documentary that you're doing? Interview witnesses and then build some conclusion at the end?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily say I'm building any conclusions. Basically, I've been making content telling a lot of these stories that to people who have been in the UFO community for a number of years, it's like the back of their hand, but people my age and even younger, these are fresh stories to them, and so I'm kind of just telling the Phoenix Lights story in a way that hasn't been done for a long time.
And after our first call, we linked up for our interview the very next day, where I
forget when I first learned about all this, probably a little while ago. But you always have to remind yourself that, there are constantly people being born, and these things that you are familiar with, they are not necessarily familiar with a lot of things. So this could be their introduction to, this is something that happened, and this is where we are right now.
Asked him every question I could think of for damn near 2 hours. And when I finally got to the part that involved Frances Barwood, the Men in Black, and a supposed break-in at his lab, he sat up, took a deep breath, and shocked me with his answer.
So again, he is the CEO. He was a CEO at the time. There was a break-in where the footage was stolen. All of this footage that they're analyzing was stolen. And now he's asking him about the break-in, being like, hey, this break-in, what's the deal with this break-in?
I've never heard that story. But I merely started Village Labs and was the CEO. I don't know every single thing that went on there.
So you have no memory of a break-in at Village
No
Labs?
memory of a break-in.
Not a break-in. We did government contracts. We had security clearances. If somebody wanted stuff that we'd had, they'd just come and ask me.
Not only did Jim say that he didn't remember this break-in at Village Labs, but he kind of also dismissed the Richard Curtis story altogether.
I'd heard things about Richard Curtis before. We kept hearing about, yeah, this guy Richard has this tape and he's going to bring it down. And I hadn't heard it was the Westward Ho. I had heard it was that he was living in his camper.
He then went on to explain that if Frances Barwood did store any records at Village Labs, it likely would have been handled by a guy named Michael Tanner, who was one of Jim's colleagues at Village Labs at the time.
Do you remember if Frances was actually storing any records or recordings of phone calls she was getting or anything like that at Village Labs?
The chances are very high that Frances was storing things via Michael Tanner, who was our project manager on archiving at Village Labs. Michael died some couple years later.
The interview ended shortly after that, but I could already feel myself feeling stuck about how to approach this video. Because on one hand, my interview with Frances and Mike, her husband, they seemed so absolutely convinced that these were the facts of the matter and this is exactly how it happened. Yet Jim's answers, whether intentional or not, seemed to be discrediting Frances Barwood's story altogether, which made this puzzle, if it wasn't already mind-bending enough, even harder to solve. I mean, I literally stayed up and tossed and turned all night after that.
It's also kind of funny how they do this break-in to get all the footage, and yet there's still footage that we can access to this day.
Wondering how I was going to edit this video.
Didn't get everything.
Then, the next morning, as I literally sat down to edit the interview, my phone rang, and the call was from Jim.
I talked to a friend this morning who also worked for us back then, who said, you know, we all agreed we weren't going to say anything, and Michael didn't want you to know because you would freak out. But there was stuff stolen out of the library.
Wait a minute.
And nobody wanted me to know. So...
And so you learned that this morning?
Yeah, I learned it 15 minutes ago.
Wow.
He's lying. He knows.
You called someone who was kind of an intern at the time, or?
No, not an intern, but was a paid employee.
Ah. And they did remember something getting taken that one time?
Yeah.
Did they remember if that was around the time of the Phoenix Lights?
We didn't exactly pinpoint it.
I love the picture he picked for himself. You're like, look at him here. He's like, whoa. Take a more flattering picture for yourself.
But it was assumed that it was part of that in my conversation. I mean, he didn't want to really talk about it. And they had agreed that they weren't going to tell me. I said, look, Michael's dead. This is the situation where, you know, it's come up about peace.
How did that guy die? Right? These people die. He doesn't want to talk about it because he's like, I'm next if I talk about it and start saying stuff.
Said, she said, and I just need to know what's true.
So in light of this new update, Jim asked me if we could potentially refilm the end of our interview where I asked him about Frances Barwood and this break-in at Village Labs.
So I would like to maybe recast the end of my interview on Zoom as if it's an update. You know, I'll just say, well, since we did the interview the other day, I've been talking to people who were back at Village Labs at the time, and there was a missing items incident, and they decided not to tell me about it. That's as far as I would go, but it may help what they say stand as true and not be accusing them of lying.
His reasoning made sense, and honestly, I could understand and empathize with the feeling of not wanting to discredit some of your friends just based off of something that seems like a massive misunderstanding. So I agreed to film an update to his interview, and we scheduled to do our update on Zoom the following morning at 8 a.m. Plus, I was really curious to see if this update was gonna be legit, or if Jim was just the type of person who was gonna say anything to make the story fit. Either way, I offered to send him a few of the clips from my interview with Frances. That way he could see for himself the claims that her and Mike were making, thinking this might help jog his memory a little bit.
And the main topic for tomorrow.
But it's also weird that he agreed to do this whole thing talking about his experience with the lights, and this is what he saw, and yada yada, and who knows what it was. And then all of a sudden at the end, he's like, I don't know, once the Men in Black and the break-in come into picture, all of a sudden he's like, yeah, like he pretends that he's been neuralized, like he doesn't remember anything. Like, why even talk about it to begin with?
It was all about the Richard Curtis.
Okay.
This is an update on the Richard Curtis matter.
Sounds good. And in that case, I'll get you a few of those clips so you know what they said.
Okay.
Cool.
This will be good. I think it'll be good. It's a good way to tell the story.
Yeah, I think so.
They had black suits on and black hats. They looked identical.
They collected everything that had any substance so that there was nothing.
I don't have two men working in my office. I don't know who they were.
That wouldn't all take place unless there was something they wanted to cover up.
Is it the government? Is it the aliens themselves?
Jim Delatoso here.
Is the government working with the aliens? Is the aliens the Covenant from Halo? What is going on?
I'm gonna get some information about Richard Curtis and about who told who that he lived there, was visited by Men in Black, that he was rushed away in an ambulance and never came back. Who told whom? Who from our side, if there's a us and a them, said that the materials had been stolen from Village Labs?
Now this guy's blowing up his phone.
When was it told? Okay, so I'll do that today.
Luckily, I didn't have to wait long because the following morning, Jim called Frances to get to the bottom of this. So obviously I asked him, how did the conversation go? And he told me basically he asked her 3 questions. 1, who was it that went down to the Westward Ho to get the statements where all these descriptions about these Men in Black were taken? 2, who did she give all of her records to at Village Labs? And 3, who was it specifically that informed her about the break-in at Village Labs? And according to Jim, what Frances told him was that the answer to all 3 of those questions was Michael Tanner, who, if you remember, was a colleague of Jim's who tragically passed away in 2013. And I'll be honest, when I heard this, I was a little bit happy because finally something between what Frances is saying and what Jim is saying is starting to line up. But I did find it awfully convenient for all the loose ends of this Men in Black and Richard Curtis story seemed to fall onto the one guy who wasn't even around to defend himself, let alone offer up his side of the story. And that's when Jim said something that really stuck with me.
You know, the Man in Black would stop fucking wearing black. If they want to be not seen, they're not going to walk around black suits and black sunglasses and black hat on.
He's got a point.
I mean, if you did something and you wanted to remain low-key and not seen, would you wear black sunglasses, a black hat, a black suit, and a black tie?
It's a good point.
It is a good point.
What would you wear? Wouldn't wear that. And when you got one guy, let alone 2 guys, dressed like the Men in Black, people stop and go, wow, look at that. Just a whole lot of it speaks of one guy, Richard, making stuff up and then just wants to be on television.
So are you saying that you believe maybe Frances was misled by a guy named Richard Curtis who was probably just bullshitting her?
Possibly. That's the highest likelihood to me. Now he's vanished and
scary that he's like making sense here. Jim's making sense, but as we'll find out, Jim appears to be implicated. He does not want to be, he doesn't want to end up like his colleague.
Now he's gone, and I mean, so they took a guy away because he had shot 8mm or VHS video of lights.
That is weird.
That's enough to kidnap somebody or to
I'm
hurt
thinking
him?
too, right?
What about the other people? And they go after them.
So Jim gave me the advice of not trying to close every loop and solve this unsolvable mystery, but to simply chalk up any inconsistencies to lapses in memory from old people trying to remember specific details of events from 27 years ago.
And my recommendation is you got plenty of good stuff. Don't try to solve the Richard Curtis thing yet. There's too much other good.
So that would explain it. He was like, let me do the interview with this guy. I'm going to tell him, I'm going to lead him on with all these things. This is what we saw. I don't know what it actually was. And he was hoping that Patrick James here wouldn't get to the point where he'd start learning about the Men in Black. He was hoping that he wouldn't learn about that. It would just be about the lights, what happened, what Village Labs was analyzing. And he was hoping it would just be that. So that's probably why Jim was like, all right, I'll do this. But now that it's going too far and we're getting into the Men in Black and the break-in, now's when it's getting, he's saying, hey, we should cut that stuff. Let's not talk about that stuff.
Good stuff to go chasing after instead of trying to solve once and for all something that doesn't line up. And think that, okay, I'll get one other answer, and then the Richard Curtis thing will all of a sudden all be true. It's never gonna all be true. And there isn't anything other than him showing up at your house with that tape. Say, okay, here I am, here's the tape, let's watch it.
And I'll be honest, at first, I thought he had a point. And
Yeah.
I really was seriously considering his advice.
Sounds like he's got a point.
Something in my gut just didn't seem right about it. Because if Richard Curtis was a hoaxer and the whole story was made up, and let's even say that the Village Labs break-in never occurred, then how would that explain the federal wiretap? So I literally texted Jim this question after our call, and he told me that if there was a federal wiretap,
Okay, so let's assume Curtis was a fraud, and let's assume there wasn't a break-in. Then how does that explain the claim of the federal wiretap, which they said they learned about only after they were trying to figure out how anybody knew Curtis called about the tape? Do you believe Francis and Mike are making that part up? There was a wiretap. Would be for other reasons, not Curtis. So he's saying that he's admitting there's a wiretap, but for other reasons, not Curtis. Yeah, what's the reason? What other reason?
wiretap, then it most likely was not in relation to the Phoenix Lights. But how could he know that? So it hit me. Why don't I just call Francis myself? That's exactly what I did.
So I got a couple interesting developments because I was literally on the call with Francis when you called.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, why don't I just call her my own damn self and just see what she says? And so I called her, and she said she's pretty sure that it was Tanner who went and questioned the Westward Ho front desk staff. And so then I said, I gotta ask this, right? What are the odds that Richard Curtis was just this guy who wanted his 15 minutes of fame on television? He called you and told you about this tape, and then when he was asked to produce it, he made up this story about Men in Black stealing it. What are the odds that that's the possibility and maybe you were misled?
Could be a possibility.
She said that's not possible. I said, why is that not possible? She goes, he wasn't lying because the whole Men in Black and all the descriptions and all of that came from the testimony of the front desk staff at the Westward Ho, not from him.
So, did you get a description of what the two men...
That changes everything. He himself didn't say that. That was the staff who said that.
...looked like from him?
He said, yeah. And from the manager of the Westward Ho and the one who was with him when they came in.
Her conviction was hard to ignore, but I was starting to get frustrated because once again, despite talking to everybody, all the loose ends fell onto Michael Tanner, who was no longer around. And on one hand, I had Frances telling me that the Men in Black and Richard Curtis story is legitimate and her records are missing. And on the other hand, I have the owner of Village Labs, where her records went missing from, telling me not to look into the Richard Curtis story because it sounds like nonsense. Men in Black don't exist, and he has no memory of any break-in at his lab involving Frances Barwood's records.
I've never had anyone from the Men in Black or the Men in Crack or the Pink Ladies or whatever come to any of my facilities ever and say, don't do this,
I didn't see any fairies, I didn't see any Bigfoot.
But then, that night, my world was utterly shattered when I happened to stumble upon an old radio interview from Art Bell's radio show that was...
This is the craziest part. So this is 97, 98 probably, late 90s I'm sure, that he stumbled upon. He found this recording where Jim is being interviewed.
Was dated July 28th, 1997. The same month, Men in Black were spotted at the Westward Ho taking Richard Curtis's
March.
And we'll be right back with Jim Dilettoso, who apparently has had a visit regarding the lights in Phoenix.
You're listening to Art Bell, tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from July 28, 1997.
And on this radio interview was none other than Jim Dilettoso himself talking about...
Now look at him, he looks like a professor here. Look at him.
How 3 Men in Black had just Dilettoso.
1997.
And on this radio interview was none other than Jim Dilettoso himself talking about how 3 Men in Black had just visited him at Village Labs. I can't even make this up.
I knew that we were onto something of interest.
Yes.
When one particular day I had a trio of gentlemen come visit me and friendly.
A trio of gentlemen?
Yes.
So he was visited by the Men in Black also. There were 3 of them. And he's admitting to it in this interview a couple months after the Phoenix Lights incident.
None of whom I knew.
Dressed in what way, announcing themselves in what fashion?
They announced that they were looking for Jim Dilettoso and had some questions for me. They were dressed like people who go to work at a number of the government facilities here in town. When I discussed all of this with my friend Jim Schneebelt, it was in his words that he used the Men in Black. To me, they were astute, forthright, precise, stern, firm, capable, and curious.
His descriptions of these men, they were so very specific. And apparently these 3 men had visited Jim at Village Labs to inquire about all these videos that he was storing with regards to the Phoenix Lights.
What did they want?
Well, initially they wanted to, I think, size me up.
Okay.
Spent a couple minutes doing that. They came right into the computer room, which I thought was a bit bold.
Came right
in. They asked for me and recognized me, and they immediately said that they would like to see a video of the Phoenix Lights. Did I have it available?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm kind of busy right now. Could we talk a little bit? And the leader of the 3 said, well, I think it would be good for us to talk right now. It was lighthearted, but...
So they're pushy. They're politely pushy.
Very precise.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, what is it about? And he said it would be to my advantage to listen.
All right.
I said, okay, let's talk then.
And they used like this passively threatening, way of speaking.
So what are you interested in? And he said, we've heard that you've been testing the lights. And I said, yes, I have. What are you interested in? And he said, what is its optical pattern? Do you have the original tapes? And I said, yes, I have them in the computer. He said, well, can we look at them? And I said, well, tell me what this is about.
The conversation got weird really fast when these guys started busting out all these research papers, asking Jim to take a look at them.
And he asked me a name. He said, do you know HP?
Do you know Harry Potter?
And I said,
who the hell is HP? I don't know who HP is.
Only on the telephone, but I do. And he said, well, are you familiar with the paper on 0 point energy and the studies at the lab? And I said, yes, we've talked about that. We're both in the same project right now.
Right.
And he said, okay, have you seen this paper? And he handed me a paper. We talked about that for a couple of minutes. They were seeing how deep into the dialogue about that I could go. And they perceived that I could go real far.
Ooh,
so,
he typoed.
And they perceived that I could go real.
And the proceed that I can go real far. Ooh, missing the N.
Real far. So immediately another paper was produced. So what do you think of this? Handed me a paper that was called Intergalactic Scenario, authored by the same person who had authored the prior paper. And I said, well, I can't really read and digest this right now. As I saw the diagrams and the complexity of the mathematics that was in it, he said, we'll wait.
We'll wait?
We'll wait.
That's
and I
weird.
Said, okay, you know, give me a couple minutes. This is pretty hefty stuff. And he said something like, well, I'm sure you can deal with it. So I escorted them back into the kitchen lounge that we have, and I gave them someone to give them coffee and keep them there. And I went upstairs and glanced over the paper. I did not read it.
Yeah, again, he's not saying anything about how they appear supernatural or anything. He just seems like there's like 3 guys, you know, and now they're drinking some coffee, waiting for him to finish reading this paper. But he doesn't seem to make it out to be like, oh, this is a trio of supernatural beings, you know?
But I saw page by page what was in it, saw that it was all about the Phoenix Lights. The diagrams that were in it were specifically the Phoenix Lights, and it made reference to the Phoenix Lights on every page.
But the part of this interaction that really keeps me up at night is when Jim started asking them about who they work for, and they started giving him these trippy answers that literally make 0 sense.
And I came back downstairs and said, what is this about?
Right.
And they said, you should continue your work, and these are specific areas that we want you to look into. And I said, well, you know, under whose authority?
Right.
And he said a really unusual thing. It was under yours. And I said, well, under mine? I mean, is this a contract? Am I going to be paid to do this? Is it of my personal interest?
Logical question.
Yes. And he said, you'll be contacted. And I said, well, you've got to be joking. I mean, this is very powerful what you're wanting me to read here, and I'll just have to look into this and study it. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do next. And I said, am I a candidate for something? And then there was some other dialogue that we shouldn't discuss here. My final comment was, well, where
shouldn't discuss here? What else did they tell you? Where should I discuss this?
Should I discuss this? And the third gentleman, who hadn't spoken at all, said, you'll know. I said, that's very ambiguous. I'll know. He said, well, you've handled things very well up to now. So, and I didn't know in what context that was. UFO research?
So is he still in contact with these men in black? Are they still like coming to him and being like, hey, let me tell you some things, this and that?
Brings us to today, because the picture to me is starting to become much clearer. Either Jim has been lying to me this entire time and is trying to throw me off the trail of Richard Curtis.
How am I going to handle potential, you know, you don't remember the same things that Francis remembers?
Just say that. Just say that. People's stories don't line up. People misremember. So that becomes part of the story. This guy seems credible, but his story doesn't match this person who seems credible.
or Jim genuinely doesn't remember ever meeting Men in Black and doesn't remember a break-in ever occurring at Village Labs. If you catch
I never met Will Smith.
I've never had anyone from the
Keep
Men
my
in
wife's name
Black
out your
or
mouth.
the
Bam.
Men in Crack or the Pink Ladies or whatever come to any of my facilities ever.
And that was the conclusion I was almost gonna run with, but then I remembered something that Monty Haddix had told me during our interview.
When I first met Jim Dilettoso, he had rented out an entire big resort just so he could talk to my father about UFOs. I don't want to speculate on, you know, which taxpayers paid for that, but
I didn't quite know what to make of all this information Monty was telling me at the time, but after finding Jim's interview from 1997, I decided to listen back to a few of our calls more closely, and that's when I heard it. A few really intriguing details that went right over my head at the time.
If you want to get something from someone, there's far more capable methods to doing it than dressing up weird and going and saying stuff to people. You do it other ways. You go and try to buy it from them. First way that you try to do it is you be from some magazine.
He's got some good points, which is like scary and concerning that it's like he's got a point.
For some production company, and you go to them and you try to buy it. Price is no object. But it's not a perfect world. There are still people that think I am paid by the CIA or NSA to talk to people like you and fill your brain full of the stuff you're going to go spit out on the general public. Come on, where the money? Where the money, man? Lay it out. I don't think I would do that for money. It's too... In any case, there are people that are just convinced of that. That's my occupation.
Well, isn't that what Richard Doty did back in the day?
Yeah, yeah. People start going about you. You know, that you're an information plant, that you're really thorough in your questions because... you know, they've hired you to come get more information. Some agency.
When I heard that, I didn't know if I could trust Jim anymore. And you got to keep in mind, after my interview with Jim, he was calling me almost every day.
Non-stop.
So if he happened to call me the next day or anytime soon after this, I had no idea if I was going to be able to hold back the information that I now knew I had. But I also figured if he called me and if I could somehow bring this up in a way that wasn't off-putting, then his reaction would be very telling to me. Because if he genuinely doesn't remember Men in Black ever visiting him, then me asking him about this could catch him off guard. But if he was somehow involved with them, then maybe he'd try to explain it away. Maybe that's what he's been trying to do this whole time. And if that's the case, would it be a bad idea for me to tip him off to the fact that I now know that he's been lying to me?
Yeah, don't tell him.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't get the choice because, like clockwork, the following morning, he called me again.
Hi, Patrick.
Hey, I was on the phone on a different call when you were calling.
Yeah, that's what I think. If you don't answer the phone, I think that you're doing something. I don't think that you look at the phone and go, oh, shit, it's Jim Dilettoso. I'm not taking his call. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
I was afraid to answer, but I did. And for the first part of the call, I essentially let him lead. I basically just said, what's up? And he was like, hey man, I was just calling to tell you that maybe it's not a good idea that you pursue this Richard Curtis case. I mean, the more I think about it, I just kind of come back to the same conclusion that it just seems like the story is fake. I mean, what kind of records would Frances be keeping? Like, I don't even know if we'd hold that many records for her in the first place. Essentially, he was trying to cast doubt on the fact that a break-in ever occurred. And in a very smooth and soft way, I asked him, hey, do you by chance remember a time maybe around after the Phoenix Lights where 3 guys came and visited you asking you about some Phoenix Lights videos?
Confronting him.
Surprisingly, he immediately knew the exact interaction I was talking about.
So these guys, were they originally demanding to see videos?
No.
All of a sudden you remember.
They've been asking. That could have been the way that, I mean, other people would report things that they had found out was going on at Village Labs. Well, they didn't have any secret shit going on with TRW. They were a client. They paid us and we wrote software.
What do you make of the papers that they handed you that you said were like really complex science, really dense, and every page had reference to the Phoenix Lights? Like, what was that all about?
Yeah, that was the interview. Just them talking about it. And again, that was people seeing what people that were there visiting, and that we were in the conference room. You know, my lobby and my conference room had a giant window. You couldn't hear what anybody was saying, but you know, that was just stuff that they were talking about. If like the lights, and at that time we were also talking about the gamma radiation. They were telling me, and that story wasn't published for another 6 months or so, or 4 months.
Yeah. What kind of like advanced science was in there? Was it just gamma radiation? You made it sound like they would give you more and more complex stuff.
Well, they wanted to know what I thought about it. One of the guys that was with them was new to me. The other,
even the way he's talking, he's like, oh, even they just wanted to know, you know, he's trying to make it small, you know, he's trying to make it like, yeah, it's like nothing. It's like, this isn't interesting. We shouldn't be looking into this, right? It's not really anything.
There was 3 of them all together. And they just wanted to come visit. I mean, I knew them. It wasn't like, you know, the government had sent in
small. It's just people. Small. It's small.
This call is no longer being recorded.
I accidentally hit that button. You have that new thing on your phone where there's a button up in the corner, and if you touch it, it starts recording the call.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
What the hell?
I hate that.
Why?
I hate that.
It's funny.
You know, anyhow, you know.
What do you think about the fact that they told you that they were there on your orders? What does that even mean?
That they were there on my orders?
You remember saying that?
You mean on a radio interview 20 years ago? No.
Yeah.
There he is, Elton in the room.
So where I heard about this story was the Art Bell show, and apparently there was a part in the story where you said you asked, well, who are you guys? Whose orders are you guys here on? And then they kind of looked confused and they said, we're here on your orders. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was about.
And then you
Amnesia.
asked them, okay, well, am I going to get paid? Who do I report to? And they were like, you'll know.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
I don't remember.
That
Amnesia.
conversation, as of the time of recording this video, is my last conversation with Jim Dilettoso. And as you can see, he clearly remembered that interaction up until I started asking him about the specifics of the conversation, where he was getting some really strange answers. Answers that I would feel like, even though 27 years later, would be very hard to forget. Yet that's where his memory
that's hard to
seems go
forget.
blank. So what does this all mean? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But I'm gonna need you to look into this light right here. All right. Hopefully, as you can see by now, the story of the Phoenix Lights extends far beyond whatever happened on March 13th, 1997. And with Congress openly showing interest in UAPs over the last few years, I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, this video can inspire some of the right people in positions of power to start asking the tough questions like, what was really in the skies above Phoenix, Arizona on March 13th, 1997? And why would covert agencies go through such an effort to cover it up? But until then, I've gone about as far as I feel like I can go without putting myself on some radars that I don't want to be on. So from this point moving forward, I'm shifting my focus away from the Phoenix Lights and putting it entirely on the rest of the 9 episodes that we've already filmed for this series. Because over the last few months, I've been traveling all over the state of Arizona, getting dozens of interviews, not just for this video, but also for 10 other full mini documentaries and episodes of this new series that I'm filming called Mindfucked, A So Weird Journey, where I'm literally going out from my office, going into the real world and investigating these stories that have always called to me. And honestly, I can't wait for you to see them. And lastly, what started out as a quick filler episode about the Phoenix Lights somehow became one of the deepest rabbit holes that I've ever looked into. In fact, it turned out so compelling that I had to make it episode 1 to kick off this series with a bang. So if you want to see any or all of the uncut interviews from today's video, including the ones I did with Patty, David, Francis Barwood, and Jim Delatoso, along with a Patreon-only behind-the-scenes podcast with some of the Phoenix Lights witnesses, head over to my new website, SoWeird.com, which I'm officially launching right now for the first time, and join us behind the scenes. And for only $5 a month, it's a no-brainer. I've said this once in my MLK documentary, and I'll say it again. I value my life. This video is for entertainment purposes only, and I don't plan to disappear without a trace anytime soon. So, yeah, that should do it for all the disclaimers. And if you want to see that MLK documentary, go here, because in my opinion, it's equally as mind-blowing as the Phoenix Lights.
Haven't seen that one. That is the end. How crazy is that?
In the darkness is the light.
Again, no matter what the Phoenix Lights are or aren't, very, very entertaining. I recommend everyone check out Patrick James' channel, So Weird with Patrick James. He's released, I think, 4 other ones. One is about a former NASA engineer who claims that he himself is an alien from space. There's another where he goes to, I think it's called Superstition Mountain, where he has one of what he claims to be one of the most paranormal experiences of his life. And he also investigates skinwalkers. And again, he has some paranormal things happen in that video as well. Very, very interesting. Very entertaining. I think this has like 500,000 views. I think it needs even more views. It's just so cool. What he stumbled upon here, and I think it's just fascinating. Aliens is like, okay, so we have ghosts. Are there ghosts? I don't think so. I haven't seen any proof of there being ghosts or any compelling, I don't know. Ghosts to me aren't that compelling. You could go out and you could try to be like, all right, this place is supposedly haunted. I haven't seen any really clear, like, what is that? I don't know what that is. With ghosts, anything with psychics, that doesn't appear to be true either. But aliens is the one thing where it's like the universe is vast, all of these galaxies, these other dimensions, 4th, 5th, 6th dimension, even our oceans, we don't know what's in our own oceans. Yeah, there's just things that we don't know. Do aliens exist? Things that we don't know about? It's totally possible. It's possible. Surely we're not alone in the universe. So yeah, when things like this happens, it's like at the very least, let's get to the bottom of it. What happened? What did we catch on camera? What did we see? And it's fascinating. So thanks for watching this with me. Again, this was The Phoenix Lights, What They Don't Want You to Know by Patrick James of So Weird with Patrick James. Please check out his channel. You can watch it uninterrupted at his channel. And I will catch you guys next time. Maybe I'll play a game. Maybe we'll watch something else. Take care. Bye-bye.